Testing 1, 2. Why is it so big? Okay. How's it going, everybody? Today we're jumping into Isaiah chapter 35, and we're going to head all the way to 37. Let me get the text up on screen here. Where is it? All right, good. We're not lagging. So, there we go. Boom. Can make that bigger. Okay, perfect. So, Isaiah chapter 35 to 37. We've been talking pretty much about the same topic for the last few Bible study sessions, right? And we're going to continue today. The judgment of Israel and Judah, right? What we've been saying is that with Isaiah, it's a lot of prophecy, right? So what is it prophesying? Is it a near fulfillment or a far future fulfillment? And that's really the big question here, because we can ask, like, what did Isaiah intend when he was writing it? Did he intend for a near fulfillment of the prophecy or a far fulfillment of the prophecy. Or maybe Isaiah did intend for a near fulfillment, but God intended for a far fulfillment. So he used Isaiah to create this prophecy that could be applicable to his time and to us today. Or, as we discussed yesterday, Isaiah was very, creative and very illustrative in his writing, and he wrote like a poet. And while that was great for the time, because as they were reading it, they clearly were interpreting it as it was applicable for them in that day, right? But we don't know for certain if it was also intended to be applicable for us today, for the future judgment to come. And that's where things get a little bit confusing. So I was saying yesterday that I want to go back to Isaiah again after we go through the Bible, and dig a bit deeper, because there's a lot to dig into with Isaiah. So for now, let's jump into Isaiah chapter 35, and let's get this started here.
The wilderness and the wasteland shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice, even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given to it, the excellence of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord, the excellency of our God. Strengthen the weak hands, and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are fearful-hearted, be strong, do not fear. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, with the recompense of God. He will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer. And
did we jump into this yesterday by accident or something? Because
the tongue of the dumb sing, for waters shall burst forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The parched ground shall become a pool,
I think it's just
and
repeating.
The thirsty land springs of water. In the habitation of jackals, where each lay, there shall be grass with reeds and rushes. A highway shall be there, and a road, and it shall be called the highway of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for others. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. No lion shall be there, nor shall any ravenous beast go up on it.
Sounds like a nice
It shall not be
place.
found there. But the redeemed shall walk there, and the ransomed of the Lord shall return.
I think the focus there is safety, right? You'll be safe on that path. And that's something that they don't have much of right now. They don't feel safe.
Ravenous beast go up on it. It shall not be found there. But the redeemed shall walk there, and the ransomed of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with singing, with everlasting joy on their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away.
Let me look this up. Isaiah 35. I'm just trying to see if this could be interpreted as like a prophecy for heaven or something like that. The highway of holiness. Today we take good roads for granted, but in the ancient world, a good road, a highway, was an amazing blessing for travel, progress, and business. Isaiah announces that in the ministry of the Messiah, there will be a wonderful highway, a road known as the highway of holiness. Was that for the ministry of the Messiah? How do we know that? So the wilderness of the wasteland shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice, even with the joy and singing. Even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given to it. The excellence of Carmel and Sharon. Okay, as we're going through, let me just go through this commentary. That's way. It's not just me reading. We get some more insight. After the judgment of the nations described in Isaiah 34, we read that yesterday, God will bring a beautiful restoration. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice. This promise was proved true in many ways, and in some sense will yet be fulfilled. But was that the sense that was intended? That's my question. This promise was true in the immediate term when Judah was restored after the invasion of the Assyrians was turned back. This promise is true in the longer term as modern-day Israel has turned the wilderness and the wasteland into productive farms and truly has made the desert blossom as the rose. This promise will be true in the ultimate fulfillment of this prophecy when God restores the ecology of the world after the end of the Great Tribulation and the Battle of Armageddon. See, that's what I was thinking. Could it be that, or was it I feel like it's more likely that it was talking about the time that it was written for. Well, I mean, I guess we don't know where the question at hand is that what time was it written for, but I feel like the time it was written for would be the immediate future, because that's when it was written. But I guess things could be applicable for multiple times, but we don't know for sure. What was the intent behind Isaiah? What was the intent behind God for giving these words to Isaiah to write down? Strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. The judgment will be enough to make the hands of anyone weak and knees of anyone feeble. It's going to be that tough. But in light of the glorious restoration God will bring from that time, it would be no time to have weak hands or feeble knees. God wanted his people to be strong and get going. So strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are fearful-hearted, be strong, do not fear. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, with the recompense of God. He will come and save you. So you could take that either, I would think that either it's during the judgment, during the troubled times, your hands will become weak and your knees will become feeble. Or could you take it as because the reason why it's saying that is because it's taking place after the judgment, and it's saying strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. So I'm assuming that this commentary is saying that, okay, so if you're strengthening the weak hands, that means the hands became weak, and we just went through the judgment, so the hands probably became weak through the judgment because they had to go through a whole bunch of stuff, right? Or could it be talking about the process through the judgment till now, where we're going through tough times, and during those tough times we become hardened, our hands become stronger, and our knees become stronger, firmer? I'm not sure. You could take it both ways. I guess it's just a matter of time when the strengthening occurs, right? I'm sure it weakened during the judgment. People could have strengthened their faith during the judgment, right? That remnant, probably their faith grew stronger and stronger and stronger. But I can definitely see people growing weaker and weaker, losing faith, losing hope. Say to those who are fearful-hearted, be strong, do not fear. He will come and save you. And is that talking about the king that we were speaking about yesterday, or talking about God? In our present trials, we need the strong hope of the Lord to overcome our fearful hearts. Our fearful hearts are not helped by a vain, vague optimism. They are helped by the assured confidence that he will come and save. Be strong, do not fear. Behold, your God will come with vengeance. So we are talking directly about God here. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened. We talked about that yesterday. When God's salvation comes, miraculous power comes with it. It is a miracle for the blind to see, for the deaf to hear, for the lame to run, and for the mute to speak. But when he will come and save you, he does it with miraculous power. So water shall burst forth in the wilderness, streams in the desert. The parched ground shall become a pool. So all these wonderful things are going to be happening. Abundance replaces lack. Now here we go. The highway shall be there, and a road, and it shall be called the highway of holiness. A highway of holiness, so I'm assuming that this is the pathway to holiness. Or is it a path that only holiness can tread on? The unclean shall not pass over it. So that sort of answers that question. Only holiness can tread on it. Only the righteous can tread on it. Uncleanly, if you are unclean, you can't walk on it. But it shall be for others. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. Okay. So the unclean can't. So what was the unclean? It was a state of being that we learned in Leviticus, right? It's not necessarily a state of sin. It is being unclean, not being sinful. It's two different things. Because we read that if you accidentally touched a carcass, or you touched somebody that touched a carcass, you were considered unclean and you had to stay outside of the camp till the next day. You didn't commit a sin, but your body is unclean and needs to be cleansed. It's a state of being. So you cannot, just like an unclean person can enter into the tabernacle, into the temple, an unclean person can't be on this highway of holiness. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. So even if you are foolish, you won't go astray. So it is a safe place. We're protected there. You're on a right path, a godly path, a path of holiness, a highway of holiness. So it is a path for others. So I'm assuming that it is not just for the godly. It's not just for the righteous. It's for others. It's for people who want to walk in the right direction. That's what I'm thinking. Let's see what this commentary says. Today we take good road. Okay, I read that. Let's read it down here. The unclean shall not pass over it. This highway isn't for everyone. It has a toll booth. But you can't make it on this highway by paying. But you can't make it on this highway by paying your way. You are only allowed on this highway if you are cleansed by the great work of the Messiah. They didn't bring up the Messiah. This commentary is. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. When we stick on God's highway of holiness, even though His work in us isn't complete yet, we may still be in some way fools. Yet we are safe because we are on His highway. There are guardrails on the dangerous curves, and He keeps us from falling off as He develops the wisdom and maturity in us that will also keep us on the highway. So it's like training wheels. He trains us to stay on the path while developing our wisdom and maturity so that we will keep ourselves on the path. That's an important lesson to be learned there. So no lion shall be there. We'll be safe there. As long as we stay on God's highway of holiness, we are protected from the attacks of the lion. We'll be safe. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with singing. We use this highway of holiness to come to where God lives and reigns. So maybe this highway of holiness could be seen as walking the righteous path, as we saw in Solomon. This righteous path that stems from the fear of God. That's the beginning of it. And we walk this righteous path towards wisdom, towards learning about God, and it ends in Zion, in heaven. We use this highway of holiness to come to where God lives and reigns, Zion. And we come there with singing. In this case, Zion will mean Jerusalem. God can put a song in our hearts as we travel on his highway of holiness. The word ransomed is related to the word goel, which refers to the one who has been rescued by the goel, the kinsman redeemer. With everlasting joy on their heads, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. We can know some of this now, but we aren't at our destination on the highway of holiness yet. But when we arrive there, God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away.
Now it came to pass.
How do we get on the highway of holiness? A highway shall be there, and a road, and it shall be called the highway of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for others. Whoever walks the road, although a fool, shall not go astray. So you just need to get on the road. Just walk on it. If a fool can get on it, you can get on it. No lion shall be there, nor shall any ravenous beast go up on it. It shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with singing. Okay, so it doesn't exactly say how to get on the highway, but Solomon gave us some clues, right? Solomon gave us some clues on how to get on the highway. Because the path to righteousness starts with the fear of God. If you fear God, you're going to want to learn more about God. When you want to learn more about God, you're trying to gain an understanding of him. And that is the path right there. The fear of God is the start of the path. Trying to understand God is the path to wisdom. And wisdom comes from God. So that's how I feel like that would be how to get on the highway. You need to build a fear of God. And once you build a fear of God, you understand the value of a relationship with God. And once you understand the value of a relationship with God, you want to build a relationship with God. And building that relationship is walking the highway of holiness. And when we get to the end, we're in Zion. I think that's a nice way to look at it. I think that's what it's getting. I think that's what we need to do to get on the highway. Again, it's a reoccurring theme. It's simple, but it's difficult. It says even a fool can stay on the highway. And that's true. A fool can stay on the highway. You just need to dumbly walk that path. We are so tempted by sin that we actively make wrong choices. If you don't act, if you just walk that path, if you don't commit sin, if you just follow God, you'll be fine. But we're not dumb, right? And I'm not saying that we should be dumb. I'm saying that because we are intelligent or because we can think for ourselves, because we have the freedom of choice, we can fall. So even though that's something good, it can work against us because we are weak and we need God's support. That's why it said that God will be there guiding you. He will help you as we walk through this path. He'll help us mature and gain wisdom as we're walking this path, right? And by the end of it, we'll reach home. We just need to make sure we don't fall. So while we're walking the path, God is teaching us that we shouldn't fall. We should gain wisdom. We should stay true to this path. And that wisdom that we've gained will keep us on the path. So we just need to keep learning, keep having the goal in mind, keep having that fear of God, keep wanting to understand God, understand what we should be doing, and we'll be fine. Again, it's simple, but it's difficult.
Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and took them. Then the king of Assyria sent the Rabshakeh with a great army from Lachish to King Hezekiah.
See, it's because in Kings and Chronicles, we went through all the kings way past David and Solomon and all that, right? And then we jumped back. And we started off again with David and Solomon. Spent a lot more. We took a lot more time with David and Solomon again, and then moved on from there. So now we're covering these topics again. So maybe we'll cover this in a bit more greater detail. We did cover it in a good amount of detail, I feel like, before. But let's see. Let's see how things go.
At Jerusalem, and he stood by the aqueduct from the upper pool, on the highway to the fuller's field. And Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, Shebna, the scribe, and Joah, the son of Asaph, the recorder, came out to him. Then the Rabshakeh said to them,
Say now to Hezekiah, Thus says the great king, the king of Assyria.
The Rabshakeh. What is the Rabshakeh? Rabshakeh. I don't know if I spelled it right. An Assyrian officer. Okay. The chief of the princes. Refers to the field commander sent by Sennacherib, king of Assyria, as a messenger to King Hezekiah of Judah. It is unclear whether Rabshakeh was the man's name or whether it was merely his title, designating his office. Other Bible versions translate Rabshakeh as field commander, Assyrian chief of staff, or royal spokesman. Rabshakeh could also refer to the chief cupbearer or vizier of the Assyrian court.
What confidence is this in which you trust? I say you speak of having plans and power for war, but they are mere words. Now, in whom do you trust that you rebel against me? Look, you are trusting in the staff of this broken reed, Egypt, on which if a man leans, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who trust in him. But if you say to me, we trust in the Lord.
And the thing is, that Egypt is abundant in reeds. So how can you trust in it? You can get pierced anywhere. Yet you're trusting in it. It's so easy to get pierced. Why trust in it?
Our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah has taken away, and said to Judah and Jerusalem, You are
trusting in the staff of this broken reed, Egypt, on which if a man leans, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who trust him. But if you say to me, We trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah has taken away, and said to Judah and Jerusalem, You shall worship before this altar? Now therefore...
Worship before this altar? Now therefore, I urge you, give a pledge to my master, the king of Assyria, and I will give you 2,000 horses, if you are able on your part to put riders on them.
So Assyria is saying, don't trust these Egypt guys. Trust us. Trust me. Trust us. Trust King Sennacherib and me. And don't listen to Hezekiah. So don't listen to Hezekiah. Don't listen to your king. Listen to me. Don't listen to Egypt. Listen to me.
Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Assyria, and I will give you 2,000 horses, if you are able on your part to put riders on them. How then will you repel one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put your trust in Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Have I now come up without the Lord against this land to destroy it? The Lord said to me, go up against this land and destroy it.
I now come up without the Lord against this land. Have I now come up against this land to destroy it? The Lord said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Interesting. So, do the Assyrians think that they're fighting, that God is on their side? God did tell them to go destroy the land because God is using the Assyrians to rain judgment. But do the Assyrians believe that God was their God, that the Israelite God was on their side?
And Eliakim, Shebna, and Joah said to the Rabshakeh,
Let me look up a commentary. That's cool. Isaiah. Oh, come on. What verse is that? Okay, let's read through this. Rabshakeh anticipated the response of the leaders of Judah. Rabshakeh, you say that we can't trust in Egypt. All right, we won't, but we can trust in the Lord our God. It is not he whose high places and whose altars. Is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah has taken away? Rabshakeh knew that King Hezekiah had implemented broad reforms in Judah, including the removal of the high places. The high places. They're talking about it here. The high places were spots of individual worship, which were prohibited by God's law. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron, to his sons, and to all the children of Israel, and say to them, This is the thing which the Lord has commanded, saying, Whatever man of the house of Israel who kills an ox or lamb or goat in the camp, or kills it outside the camp, and does not bring it to the door of the tabernacle or meeting to offer or tabernacle of meeting to offer an offering to the Lord before the tabernacle of the Lord, the guilt of bloodshed shall be imputed to that man. He has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people. So it didn't really say we shouldn't have spots of individual worship, because we know that having spots of individual worship are completely fine. The thing is that these high places were used for pagan worship. They were used in pagan practices. And so there's a negative stigma to these places. And also, I mean, I guess I'm arguing their point here, that they shouldn't be using individual places for individual worship. During the Exodus, I would assume that might be the case, right? They wanted a central place of worship. And even with the temple, they wanted a central place of worship because they're building a foundation. They wanted to install values, practices, and values and practices for the people to know how to pray, how to communicate with God. And so if we had individual places of worship, how would you know what they were doing? You know? Were they falling into pagan practices? Were they mixing things, pagan ways and godly ways? Because they'd done that before. I think that's why. Israel was commanded to bring their sacrifices to the official center of sacrifice. Yes, sacrificial sacrifices. But what about just worshiping? In the pagan world at the time, it was customary to offer sacrifices where everyone pleased. And, God wanted to separate his people from the rest. He didn't want them to be the same. So maybe this was a way to show the difference between the two. Altars would customarily be built on high hills in forested areas or at other special places. This is also why the children of Israel got extremely mad when the two tribes that I forgot the names, the two tribes that when we first instantiated the promised land, two tribes were on the east of the Jordan River, and they built a little altar for themselves there to say thank you. And the children of Israel on the west of the Jordan River got really upset because they had the tabernacle. That should have been the central place of worship. So why did these guys build an altar over there? You know, so a central place of worship, and we saw these high places. People kept using them for pagan practices, so they needed to get out of there because they were synonymous with pagan worship, idol worship. So they have been an issue. That practice may have been fine for the time of the patriarchs, but now God regarded sacrifice at high places as an offense. Hezekiah did right when he took away the high places and the altars. Right. Demanding that people came to the temple in Jerusalem to offer sacrifice. Because without the high places, if they felt paganism, where could they go? They had to create altars. With the high places there, they could just use the high places. So now in order to worship, they had to go to the temple. It is not he whose high places and whose altars. Is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah has taken away? In Rabshakeh's thinking, Hezekiah's reforms have really displeased God. So he should not expect help from the Lord God of Israel. Rabshakeh would say, look at all the high places there used to be where people would worship the Lord God of Israel. So, but I mean, the children of Israel, why would they take Rabshakeh's point of view seriously? God's not on his side. Maybe he does think God is on his side because God is using them to rain judgment. Now, since Hezekiah came in, there is only one place. Yeah, that's what we were just saying. More is always better. So the Lord God of Israel must be pretty sore at Hezekiah. But that's actually not the case. That's not the case. But you see how Rabshakeh is trying to twist the situation. He is trying to feed the children of Israel this false narrative so that they will turn to King Sennacherib. Now therefore I urge you, please pledge to my master, the king of Assyria. This reminds us of Rabshakeh's whole strategy, which is to make Judah give up. This is the entire reason Rabshakeh is at the aqueduct, speaking to these leaders of Hezekiah's government. He had the vastly superior armies. He could have just attacked Jerusalem without this little speech, but Rabshakeh would prefer it if Judah would simply give up out of fear, discouragement, or despair. You know, save lives. Don't have to go through the trouble of war. I will give you 2,000 horses if you are able on your part to put riders on them. Here, Rabshakeh mocked Judah's weak army. He said, even if we helped you with the 2,000 horses, it wouldn't do you any good because you don't even have riders for them. His basic message was, we could beat you with one hand tied behind our backs. Your God is not on your side. You don't have enough men to even do it on your own without God. You don't even have the high places if you wanted to call for pagans to come and idols to false gods to come and help you. And your allegiance, you're trying to make an allegiance with Egypt. They're like reeds. They're going to stab you in the hand. And there are reeds all over the place. You're lost. You're lost before it even began. So just turn to us. Just give in. It'll be okay. So he's just really playing a mind game. And if I remember correctly, these are Sennacherib's words, and Rabshakeh is speaking them. Or maybe it's the will of Sennacherib and they are Rabshakeh's words. Either way, he's playing mind games. He's really messing with them.
Destroy it.
And Eliakim
Oh wait, I didn't even get to the part that I wanted to check out initially, did we? The Lord said to me, "Go up against this land and destroy it." This was the finishing blow of a brilliant attack. God told me to destroy you. I'm just doing His will, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. So you may as well surrender. So what did Rabshakeh do? He is poking holes into the foundation of the children of Israel. He is saying that God is no longer with you. You don't have places of worship. Hezekiah is weak. He's going against what God wants. You can't even lean on the Egyptians. You can't lean on your own strength. And now God is on our side. Mind games. Significantly, we can say that Rabshakeh was partially correct. God was with him, and his attack on Judah fulfilled God's prophesied plan. In conquering Syria, in conquering Israel, and in bringing Judah to the brink, the Assyrians did the will of God. But God punished them after He used them. He punished them. God prophesied that all this would happen in Isaiah 8 and 7 and many other passages in Isaiah. He allowed it to happen so His prophesied plan would be fulfilled.
Shebna and Joah said to the Rabshakeh,
"Please speak to your servants in Aramaic, for we understand it. And do not speak to us in Hebrew in the hearing of the people who are on the wall."
But the Rabshakeh said,
"Has my master sent me to your master and to you to speak these words, and not to the men who sit on the wall, who will eat and drink their own waste with you?"
Then the Rabshakeh stood and called out with a loud voice in Hebrew,
"Hear the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus says the king, do not let Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you. Nor let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us. This city will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Do not listen to Hezekiah, for thus says the king of Assyria, make peace with me by a present and come out to me. And every one of you eat from his own vine, and every one from his own fig tree, and every one of you drink the waters of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards.
So now he's building incentive for them to
lest Hezekiah persuade you, saying the Lord will deliver us. Has any one of the gods of the nations delivered its land from the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? Indeed, have they delivered Samaria from my hand? Who among all the gods of these...
So all these gods, all these other false gods, right? All those gods, well, to him they're not false gods, but all these other gods, they couldn't stand up to us. And now your God is on our side. Just come join us, man. Just come join us.
Lands have delivered their countries from my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem from my hand.
But they held their peace and answered him not a word. For the king's commandment was, do not answer him. Then Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph the recorder came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn and told him the words of the Rabshakeh.
Yeah, I can imagine it must have been hard to hear all that. If you're not strong in your faith, you're going to be shaken.
And so it was, when King Hezekiah heard it, that he tore his clothes, covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of the Lord. Then he sent Eliakim, who was over the household, Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priests, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos. And they said to him,
Thus says Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble and rebuke and blasphemy. For the children have come to birth, but there is no strength to bring them forth. It may be that the Lord your God will hear the words of the Rabshakeh, whom his master, the king of Assyria, has sent to reproach
Of the Rabshakeh. So I'm guessing it is a title.
the living God, and will rebuke the words which the Lord your God has heard. Therefore lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left.
So the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, and Isaiah said to them,
Thus you shall say to your master, Thus says the Lord, do not be afraid of the words which you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Surely I will send a spirit upon him, and he shall hear a rumor and return to his own land. And I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land.
Then the Rabshakeh returned, and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he heard that he had departed
That
from
voice
Lachish.
is so familiar.
And the king heard concerning Tehekah, king
I feel like that voice was used in the beginning. There was a Bible story, that Bible anime I posted about.
from Lachish. And the king heard concerning Tehekah, king of Ethiopia, he has come out to make war with you. So when he heard it, he sent messengers to Hezekiah, saying,
Thus you shall speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, Do not let your God in whom you trust deceive you, saying, Jerusalem shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Look, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands by utterly destroying them, and shall you be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered those whom my fathers have destroyed? Goshen, and Haran, and Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in Telesser? Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, and the king of the city of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Eva?
And Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers, and read it. And Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord, and spread it before the Lord. Then Hezekiah prayed to the Lord.
O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, the one who dwells between the cherubim, you are God. You alone of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see, and hear all the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to reproach the living God. Truly, Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste all the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods
So
into
they
the
are
fire,
kind of
but
scared.
they were not gods, but the work of men's hands, wood
good.
and stone. Therefore they destroyed them. Now, therefore, O Lord our God, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you are the Lord, you alone.
So they didn't fall for his tricks.
Then Isaiah, the
Sennacherib's
son of
tricks.
Amos, sent to Hezekiah, saying,
Thus says the Lord God of Israel, because you have prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria, this is the word which the Lord has spoken concerning him.
The virgin, the daughter of Zion, has despised you, laughed you to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem has shaken her head behind your back. Whom have you reproached
So is this
and
you,
blasphemed?
Sennacherib?
Against whom have you raised your voice and lifted up your eyes on high?
I think so.
Against the Holy One of Israel. By your servants you have reproached the Lord, and said, By the multitude of my chariots I have come up to the height of the mountains, to the limits of Lebanon. I will cut down its tall cedars and its choice cypress trees. I will enter its farthest height, to its fruitful forest. I have dug and drunk water, and with the soles of my feet I have dried up all the brooks of defense. Did you not hear long ago how I made it, from ancient times that I formed it? Now I have brought it to pass, that you should be for crushing fortified cities into heaps of ruins. Therefore their inhabitants had little power. They were dismayed and confounded. They were as the grass of the field and the green herb, as the grass on the housetops and grain blighted before it is grown. But I know your dwelling place, your going out and your coming in, and your rage against me. Because your rage against me and your tumult have come up to my ears, therefore I will put my hook in your nose and my bridle in your lips, and I will turn you back by the way which you came. This shall be a sign to you. You shall eat this year such as grows of itself, and the second year what springs from the same. Also in the third year sow and reap. Plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. And the remnant who have escaped of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go a remnant, and those who escape from Mount Zion. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this.
Therefore, thus...
So it'll grow out. Of Zion. 37. Where was it? Okay, over here. Therefore, I'll put my hook in your nose. Therefore, I shall put my hook in your nose, and I will turn you back by the way which you came. This was an especially dramatic statement because this is exactly how the Assyrians would cruelly march those whom they forced to relocate out of their conquered lands. They would line up the captives and drive a large fishhook through the lip or the nose of each captive, string them all together, and march them. God said to Assyria, I'm going to do the same thing to you. Dang.
Says the Lord concerning the king of Assyria.
He shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor build a siege mound against it.
Protecting.
By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and he shall not come into this city, for I will defend this city, to save it for my own sake, and for my servant David's sake.
He made a covenant with David.
Then the angel of the Lord went out and killed in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000.
That's a lot.
When the people arose early in the morning, there were the corpses, all dead. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went away.
Imagine that, like thinking you're completely overpowered. You have an army that's massive, way larger than your enemies. You play the mind game. You've broken them, or you think you have. And you go to bed thinking like this is going to be a piece of cake, and then you wake up and everybody's dead. That's got to be crazy.
And home, and remained at Nineveh. Now it came to pass, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that his sons, Adramelech and Sharezer, struck him down with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Ararat.
Yeah.
Then Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his place.
It's ironic, right? How Sennacherib, via his servant, what's that guy's name? Rabshakeh, mocked God, said that your God is on my side now. You don't even have him. Look at all those idols out there. They're nothing. We destroyed all of those nations. So we're stronger than their gods. We're stronger than your God. And he's even on our side. So you have nothing. Your army is weak. You don't have a God. You're going to be destroyed. So come join us. And so they're boastful, right? Like that. Then they go home. The king goes home. And he dies while worshiping his God by the hand of his son. So his own God, while he was worshiping, couldn't protect him. Well, obviously he couldn't, because it's just a piece of stone. But his own God couldn't protect him while worshiping him, and at the hand of his own son. And I feel like the reason why, I think that's why God waited till that point, to show that, like, look at this. This guy spouted all this nonsense, and now I just showed that your gods are absolutely nothing. That there's only one God. We defeated you. Your entire army, when you guys woke up, they were all dead. And now you went home thinking you're safe, worshiping, praying to your God. And your own son, who you're supposed to be safe with, killed you in your safe sanctuary, temple to Nisroch. Like, it's very similar to, it reminds me of like Gideon, but the opposite, right? Because this is the defeat of the enemy, and no one really defeated the enemy. This is pretty much the enemy killing themselves. So I guess not the opposite, but just a sort of derivative of, like, this story of Gideon, where God dwindled down Gideon's army so that they will know that it was God's victory, not theirs. This was 100% God's victory. And he did it. I feel like God had fun with this, with that death there. Dang. Let me look up a commentary for this. I forgot. I feel like they did explain earlier in the earlier books how these people died. Like, the angel of the Lord went out, but then what happened? How were they killed? 36. The angel of the Lord went out. Simply and powerfully, God destroys this mighty nation in one night. 185,000 died at the hand of the angel of the Lord, against all odds and against every expectation except the expectation of faith. The Assyrian army was turned back without having even shot an arrow into Jerusalem. The unstoppable was stopped. The undefeated was defeated. The prophet Hosea made the same prediction. Yet I will have mercy on the house of Judah. I will save them by the Lord their God, and I will not save them by bow, nor by sword or battle, by horses or horsemen. Herodotus, the Greek historian, recorded that one night Sennacherib's army camp was infested with mice or rats that destroyed the arrows and shield thongs of the soldiers. He probably got this tradition from Egyptian sources, and it could well be a somewhat garbled version of the event recorded here. This was not difficult for God to do, killing them all. Far harder for the Lord was getting the hearts and minds of his people in the right place. Once they were there, it was nothing for God to dispatch one angel to do this. So it was an angel that really just wiped him out, just killed him. There's no really other explanation. Sennacherib army destroyed. Let's see how it was written here. Probably near the end, right? And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they rose in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. Okay, so no specifics. The angel just killed them all at night. So maybe nobody saw how it happened. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh. And it came to pass, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch his god, that Adramelech, Sharezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia. And Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his stead. Dang. Man, got it coming to him. He had it coming to him. More so than a lot of people. But that's going to be it for today. We finished Isaiah chapter 35 to 37. It was pretty much it was covering stuff that we had covered prior, but I guess with a different bit of an angle, because we had a little bit of context before with Isaiah, like some firsthand from the point of view of the Israelites, what they were going through, their state of mind, the whole thing of God's judgment, right? The prophecies, and then now this event. This event, pretty much how it went down in Kings. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. It was nice to read again. Tomorrow we'll jump into 30. What am I saying? 38. Let's get a tiny little sneak peek. What 38 is going to be about. Hezekiah's life extended, right? Because he was sick. Set your house in order, for you shall die and not live. But then Hezekiah's life was extended. He asked for extended life, right? I've heard your prayers and I've seen your tears. Okay, we'll find out tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, right? Well, we'll jump into that tomorrow and figure that out. So, hope you enjoyed today's reading. And I'll see you tomorrow for Isaiah chapter 38. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.